Hey, I want to hit a viewer question real quick that I received the other day that was talking about developing your parenting plan and some things to think about. And the question was, while early in the divorce process, do you have any tips for shaping things towards a final settlement that doesn't box you into shenanigans by the NAR, like having to respond to emails within 24 hours, etc.? Thoughts? Okay, so this one is kind of an interesting one because when you're developing your parenting plan and in your divorce decree and putting things in there, first your attorney is going to recommend to keep things as ambiguous as possible. And typically the reason that is so that you both have flexibility to do things, and it's a rough guideline with the idea thinking that you're going to be able to co-parent with the person, be able to work things out, be able to do things for the best interest of our children. Unfortunately, if you're at this channel, then you already realize that that's really not an option when you're dealing with somebody really toxic and narcissistic. So the problem with that initial approach is it sets you up with all kinds of problems because there's not enough detail in there to really hold them accountable. Now, conversely, if you go way too far, then they could turn around and hold you to the letter of the law to keep everything on track. So you have to come up with a balance that works for you, that doesn't put you in a bind, but also gives you enough teeth that if and when you do, or let me back up, if you decide to go back to court and you have a significant amount of documentation, you can go in and say, look, this isn't working. The other person is violating the court order. This stuff is in there, and I need some recourse on this. The problem is, and both of these things, one, just know that you're not going to be able to create a perfect document for a toxic personality type. It's just not going to happen because they will do anything and everything they can to make your life as difficult and complicated as possible. However, if you don't have enough in there, then if you're trying to say, hey, I want to see the kids on, it's Father's Day and I want to see the kids, and it's not written in there, or if you specifically didn't put it in that the parent for Mother's Day and the parent for Father's Day gets to see them, they can turn around and say, well, it's my day. I'm sorry, we had plans. Or oddly enough, there's been times where people would say, well, it's Father's Day, but I'm going to take them to see my father or my grandfather. That's the type of stuff you have to be really careful about because that's the type of things they'll do. Like you want to be able to say, the father gets the kids on Father's Day. Mother gets the kids on Mother's Day. Your birthdays, if it's important, you have it written in. Now, in that example that I read off earlier, the person was talking about responding to emails within 24 hours. Now, the way that read, it sounded like the person was saying, well, wait a minute, I don't want to be held accountable for responding in 24 hours. And it's a little bit problematic because if you add that in there, then that means you do need to be looking at that document, not the document, you need to be looking at emails to make sure that you can respond to it in the appropriate amount of time. Because what you don't want to get into is a situation where you're not following the court order. You don't want to give them additional information, or not information, you don't want to give them additional ammunition to be able to attack you. Now, the thing on this is, if you have a very litigious ex and they have money to go to court, they're going to make your life a living hell as a result of that. So you got to be really careful that whatever you put in there, you can follow. That's why in a lot of my older videos from the first year of the channel, I would say default to the court order. So whenever there's a discussion, don't deviate from the court order, because if you start deviating from it, then your ex can turn around and say, well, we don't follow it anyways. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? I tried to do that in the beginning where we were trying to compromise, and it turned out to where, every time that she would do something quote unquote nice for me, then it would be like, I let you talk to the kids on the phone for 5 minutes. So can I take them out of state for 2 months? I'm exaggerating. That didn't really happen. But what I'm talking about is that the type of stuff that happens. So you want to have a court order that you can live with, that you can follow, that provides some protection. So if you do end up having to go back to court, you can say, hey, look, this isn't working. They're fighting me on everything, and this is a court order, and they're not following. If you don't have that in there, then you really don't have anything that has any teeth. Not that it really... The problem is with all of this is you really have to, at the end of the day, decide what's really worth going back to court for, because most of the time it's going to be more... It's like, what's the cost-benefit analysis? So, yeah, you can go back. Yeah, you might have a case to argue it, but is it really worth it, right? So you really want to put things in there that are important, like visitation's important, phone calls are important, Vacations are important. Like, for instance, one of the things I didn't even think about was who gets the kids during the normal 3-day weekends. Didn't write it in. Now I just look at it, and I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember how that happened. All I do know is that it was like, wait a minute. Every time I have a 3-day weekend, I don't get the kids, right? So, I mean, if like that's the type of stuff that's important to you, you want to add it in so that you have something to say, because if it's not and it's open to interpretation, they will interpret it however they want. Technically, they're going to interpret it however they want anyways, but if at least you have something, if it says, hey, on my birthday, I get the kids for an overnight, right? Then it's written in there. And personally, I would recommend times in there, not ambiguous. One of the examples I use often is that first Christmas, where it talks about whoever has the kids for the holiday, you get them from the time they're out of school until they go back into school. Weirdly enough, the school that my kids go to, they do it like 2 days before. So it's like their last day of school is on Wednesday, which happens to be my day, if you guys remember that. So on that week, she would have the kids Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday rolls around. Well, that's the day that they get out of school for the holiday. So they go to mom on that day, and then I don't see them for those the rest of the 2 days, and then the entire time. So it actually rolls out to be like a 28-day period of time. Here's the thing: the court order said that whoever doesn't have the kids for the holidays gets to see them on Christmas. So that first year, whenever she had the kids for Christmas, she announced that she was leaving the state. I'm like, that's awesome. Great. Have fun, but I'll see the kids on Christmas Day. And she's like, nope. And the reason she said nope is because the court order said whoever doesn't have the kids gets to see them on Christmas Day at a time mutually agreed by both parents. She didn't agree, so in her mind, that meant there was no agreement, so I couldn't see the kids. It was actually, it's funny now. It wasn't funny then. It was kind of annoying. But that's what I'm talking about, right? It's like any normal person will look at it and say, okay, you get to see the kids, and you both have to work out the time that you get to see the kids. In her mind, it was like, no, I don't agree for you to see the kids. We're not going to be in the state, so you don't get to see them. Sorry. That's the type of stuff you need to think about. Oh, and on that, just if you haven't seen the other videos where I've talked about it, I fought that, she backed off, and I did get to see the kids. Actually, I agreed to see them on Christmas Eve, but it's a different story. But it's just an example that I wanted to mention, because that's the type of stuff that happens, and it's the type of stuff you need to be cautious of. The other thing that I almost made a mistake on is our transition time for the kids not during school was initially set in the draft court order for 5 p.m. Well, I get off of work at 4:30. I live 25 minutes away from work, or from home, I mean, or I live 25 minutes away from work. Get that backwards. Anyways, and there would have been no time for me to get the kids from the after-school programs and rush straight home, maybe get their stuff, or not even be able to do that and have to go drop them off straight at their mom's. I did not want to be in a situation where she was sitting out there tapping her little foot, looking at her clock, going, you're late, you're late, you're late, because I had a job. So I was able to change that to 6 p.m. So that's the type of thing. Think it through, because you're going to be living with this for a long time. If something's problematic for you and you think you won't be able to do it, you probably don't want it written in there. If there's something that's really important for you, you probably want to make sure it's written in there. It's going to be a compromise. Again, just to reiterate, do not expect that this is going to be the perfect solution that's going to cause them to act normal. They're still going to push your buttons. They're still going to try to push it as much as possible. They're probably going to push it to the point that you're going to have to threaten them to go back to court. And then you really just have to decide what's worth fighting for. But that's a topic for another video. So on that, if you have some things that were really important to you that you put in your court order that you either forgot or that you remembered and put in there, add it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have, what you were able to do with that and how it's worked out for you. And I'll chat with you on the next video. Take care.